Hello, and welcome back to my channel. If you are new to this channel, my name is Frank Tu, and I'm a college professor teaching sociology, history, and philosophy. I'm also an award-winning landscape photographer. We all know that people are different in many ways: physical, sexual, racial, ethnic, cultural, and so on and so forth. In order to better understand their differences, social scientists often put them into different categories, such as racial groups, ethnic groups, religious groups, age groups, etc. Sociologists are also interested in how to categorize people based on their socio-economic conditions. Such categorization is called social class, which is a fundamental concept used by sociologists to analyze the structure of society and human behavior. But the term social class is not only used in academia, but it is also used by many ordinary people. In this video, I'm going to discuss the social class by answering 3 questions that we often come across in everyday life. Number 1, what is a social class? Number 2, what are social classes here in American society? Number 3, what are the indicators of a person's social class? In my future videos, I will examine a few sociological theories about social class and explain, from my perspective, why some people are rich whereas others are poor. If you are interested, please subscribe. As I said, social classes are used by sociologists to categorize people, to put them into different groups. But what is exactly a social class? Different people have different definitions. As a professor of sociology, I define social class in very simple language. A social class refers to a group of people who occupy similar social status, having similar access to economic, social, political, and cultural resources of society. In every society, especially in a capitalist society, people are very much different in terms of wealth, power and authority, prestige, and so on. If you and some other people are similar in those terms, sociologists put all of you together into one group, which they call a social class. There are disagreements among sociologists as to the number of classes and their composition in the United States. Some people assume that there are only 3 classes: upper class, middle class, and a lower class. However, as a professor of sociology, I think this classification is too simplified because of the fact that there are too many people who claim to be in the middle. For example, if you ask a medical doctor which class he or she belongs to, he or she will most likely say, "I'm in the middle." And if you ask a school teacher where they belong, they will also say, "I'm neither too rich nor too poor, so I'm somewhere in the middle." In my opinion, a medical doctor is not on the same level as a school teacher in many ways, such as income and housing. Therefore, the middle class should be further divided in order to differentiate those people. That is why I think that the American people can be divided into 5 social classes: upper class, upper middle class, lower middle class, lower class, and underclass. Now, before I elaborate on them, let me ask you a question. Which social class do you believe you are in? The upper class is the highest socioeconomic class, referring to those super-rich people, such as top business executives, owners of large companies, big investment capitalists, and some celebrities. They also include those who got their wealth from their families and not from their own achievements. The number of the upper-class people is rather small, somewhere between 1% to 2% of the total population in America. However, they control vast amounts of wealth and property in the country, and they have great power and influence over governmental policies. The upper middle class is composed of higher status members of middle class. They are well educated, having high incomes, and enjoying high social prestige. For example, medical doctors, lawyers, prestigious university professors, judges, high-level business management people belong to this class. They usually live in big houses in wealthy, elegant neighborhoods and drive expensive cars. Many of the upper middle class people are members of prestigious clubs, and they can afford extended vacations overseas. Politically, they are quite active, and some are enthusiastic about running for public offices. The lower middle class refers to those people who are in the middle of the social ladder but not as high as the upper middle class people. They include teachers, bank employees, mid-level supervisors, and salespeople who are also called white-collar workers. Altogether, their numbers are bigger than the upper middle class. They are in the middle in terms of income and social prestige, but they are not as rich as the upper middle class people. They usually have college degrees. Members of this class share many of the values of the upper middle class. They envy the upper middle class people, but lack of resources makes them unable to copy their affluent lifestyles. For example, they have their own homes in decent neighborhoods, but their homes are not as big, and they usually don't own expensive cars as the upper middle class people do. Also, they usually can only afford one vacation a year. Politically, they are not as active as the upper middle class people. The lower class is primarily made up of the so-called blue-collar workers, and those people who work for low wages in unpleasant and sometimes dangerous environments. Members of this class usually have a little formal education. Some people use the term working class to describe them because most of them work as manual laborers. Perhaps the best way to describe them is that they live from paycheck to paycheck. They can hardly make ends meet. The chances that they experience hardships are quite high because they are more likely to lose their jobs during economic crisis. The underclass refers to those who are extremely poor, including those who are unemployed and totally dependent on public assistance. Homeless people, of course, belong to this category. Having explained the 5 social classes, I'd like to call your attention to 2 things. First, different sociologists use different terms to refer to the same social class. For example, some people prefer to use the phrase working class instead of lower class. Secondly, in a diverse society such as America, other factors like race, ethnicity, and national origin have a strong influence on a person's social class, at least on the perception of the person's social class. When we talk about social classes, it should be kept in mind that a person's class membership cannot be directly observed. It is only observable through various signs or indicators such as house, location of residence, occupation, and so on. Now, let's have a look at the most important indicators used by sociologists to measure the social class membership. They include, number 1, income. Obviously, a person who makes $500,000 a year is not in the same class as someone who earns $50,000 a year. However, please keep in mind that it is very difficult to draw a line in terms of income between different social classes because one's net income is affected by other factors as well. Number 2, education. Obviously, a person with a doctoral degree will not be regarded as on the same level as a person with only a high school diploma. Number 3, occupation. What kind of job you have often carries a certain degree of prestige. For example, if you introduce yourself as a medical doctor, it will get a lot of respect from people. And finally, place of residence. This is because where you own a house almost always shows how rich you are. Of course, those indicators are intertwined with each other because obviously a person with a good education tends to have a good job and earn a high income and live in a wealthy neighborhood. There are people who argue that a person's speech pattern is also an indicator of that person's social class. Although I don't quite subscribe to this argument, it is worth noting that one's speech pattern, including vocabulary level, is closely related with one's educational level. And as I just pointed out, educational level is indeed an important indicator of that person's social class. Well, that is all for today. As I said at the beginning of this video, I will make more videos about social class in the future. I will be talking about why people are different. Why are there rich people and poor people? Please subscribe if you are interested. As always, thank you for watching, and hopefully I will see you again in the next video.